Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 480. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. A former college athlete wants to close the nutrition gap for inner city athletes by providing a healthy alternative to sugary drinks and poor food choices. And he's launching a philanthropic urban youth wellness initiative to educate and empower inner city minority youth and their families to prioritize nutrition and healthy lifestyle. Welcome, Tyrone Faverey.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Absolutely. So New History is an arm or an extension of Revolutionary Fitness USA. And we created that in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic, sort of as a response to everything that was going on. We wanted to do something that was a little bit more targeted to the Black community, to the brown community, to the urban community that we felt was underserved and just underrepresented altogether in the world of fitness. So what we decided to do was actually launch an apparel line to slowly enter the space. And upon doing so, we recognized that there were a little bit more disparities than sort of cool clothes and sort of the blend between streetwear and athleisure, so to speak. So we decided to dig a little bit deeper. And we found in supplementation that there was sort of a veil, if you will, around it inside the community where it seemed that everyone who had interest in it sort of tiptoed around it. And I think a lot of that comes from just lack of education altogether. I know when I was starting out, I didn't have a lot of information around supplementation, nutrition, really any of it, and the importance of it and how it could help benefit not only me as a athlete or sort of my body physically, but also my life and the overall happiness and the quality of the life as well. So I think a lot of that comes spurred from the idea that supplementation is not good for you, that supplementation, there are people who think that there are steroids inside of supplementation. And it's just, again, I think it surrounds the lack of education. So what we did is we decided to set out on a mission to kind of dispel a lot of those rumors and myths and focus in on our community specifically and elevating our community, but not just from a physical perspective, but from a mental perspective as well. So we wanted to elevate minds and bodies of the urban community altogether, which we know in turn, we take care of ourselves, then we become happier and healthier. And then that sort of spreads on its own naturally when people start to see that. I'd say that that's probably a really key part of our business is really just making sure people understand that everything that we're doing, it comes from the best place possible. And, our whole business isn't surrounding really our own economics. It's really just to create a voice, create a platform, create something a little bit more than what you see there on the market today that people can gravitate towards and feel represented in. So we want to make sure we're empowering the people in our community, just like other communities are empowering theirs.
And when you talk about the physical and mental, talk about mental wellness and entrepreneurship.
I mean, I think it's a cornerstone, just like the gym, just like working out, right? Every time we go to the gym, we work out our muscles, they get stronger and stronger. The same is true for your brain. It's also a muscle, just the way that we think, the way that we frame thoughts, speed to thought, conversations, all of that matters, right? And if we're doing the same things over and over and over again, and we're not challenging ourselves, then we're not making our minds any stronger than they once were. Our products, they actually have a component in there that aids towards leveling up your mind, so to speak. So there are ingredients that are specifically focused on creating neural pathways that will help you, think a little bit faster, become a little bit more alert, a little bit more energetic, even from perceived energy. These are all things that the ingredients rather, that your mind needs in order to operate at its fullest potential. I mean, I couldn't stress more about mental exercise, mental nutrition, because it all starts there. right? Without optimizing our minds, there's no possible way we can optimize our bodies. So why not do both at the same time?
When you talk about coming to the market with supplements, is it your own formula? Did you partner with someone? Tell us about bringing that to market.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be clear, there are three other partners that I have. I also have a mentor and an advisor. Our advisor, we're lucky enough to have, he's a titan in the space, very well known, very well respected in sports nutrition. He opened up many doors for us. So originally, when we launched, this was under another brand. We launched a private label drop shipping brand. And it was centered around sort of breaking into the space, understanding the space, figuring out the gaps, identifying where we need to really come in and where we can be successful, and then transform. So that's what we did. We did exactly that, and then we've transformed. So now we're at the transformation piece. Now, what we didn't recognize was how intricate the industry was and how you kind of pinpointed you needed to be and how many people you needed to know in order to be successful in that space, just like any other industry. But I didn't recognize how small it was. So everybody in sports nutrition really knows everybody. It's kind of wild, actually. But navigating those seas would have taken forever had it not been for our advisor. He's gotten us through some choppy storms, and he's helped us formulate and put us in touch with professionals who understand formulations. So it was really our idea that we had surrounding a pre-workout that we wanted to make sure elevated people's minds as well as their bodies. And then how do we do that with a formulation that is not overwhelming, that everyone can take across the board, something you could take every day, and something that's truly going to elevate, your performance in the gym, performance out of the gym, performance maybe on the basketball court, maybe performance in the office. How do we create something that can be used amongst sort of all of these different various groups and to get people introduced to the space? So we wanted to do not basic, but an elevated version of a simple and effective formula. And that's what we have. So it's nothing that's going to really like knock your socks off in terms of effectiveness. It's something that you can absolutely go into and not be intimidated, because all of the ingredients are naturally sourced. They're all amino acids, essentially, for the most part, except for a few, and naturally occurring in your body and outside of your body. So these are things that I know a lot of people look for and a lot of people can be afraid of. When it comes to supplements, they think that it's been tweaked in the lab, and some have, but the ones that we've decided to use for the reason of fear and the shroud of really unacceptance inside of our community, we wanted to make sure that we did something that people can really stand behind and feel good about putting inside of their body. So that's what we decided to do.
Thank you for that. And when you think about that with the Olympics coming up and individuals training, your supplements, they will be accepted if someone is going to the various levels in terms of when you look at if you're going to the Olympics or you're training for the Olympics and ensuring that. I know that I'm in the process of engaging in my first fitness competition and I'm going the natural route. When we look at putting things in our body, your formula will be definitely accepted no matter what level you're training at.
Oh, absolutely. And congratulations, by the way, on the fitness challenge. Yes, absolutely. And I love to kind of just talk about that just in its entirety, because what people a lot of times think when it comes to supplementation is that if it's bad for you, then, or good for you for that matter, then it's going to be accepted or not accepted at various different levels of sanctioned competition. So the NCAA, for instance, there was a time when they were very much against taurine. They were very much against amino acids, certain things that they looked at. And there weren't a ton of studies at the time, but they looked at as performance enhancers, in which case can be looked at as performance enhancers, because if you supplement taurine properly, then it will give you a little bit of a mental edge. And that's not performance enhancer, but because we were talking about the brain boosting component, if you're locked in well enough, then you can pretty much make your body do whatever's needed, because everything's muscle memory at that point. So you're performing at the highest level that you're capable of doing. So that's kind of where they drew the line. No longer is it banned. It's not something that we have to worry about anymore. So for our pre-workout specifically, it is absolutely something that will enhance even the performance of Olympic athletes. It'll perform or enhance, people outside of exercise as well. And I want to harp on that just a little bit because I think, when we're talking about supplementation and sports nutrition, we just gravitate towards sports and nutrition, which is natural, right? We talk about creatine, we talk about, protein, all these things to optimize the physical body. But there are things too that keep people sharp at work, right? We drink coffee in the morning. Some people, they do take nootropics to help elevate their mental performance and cognitive performance as well. But this is something that you can do that will do both. It'll do both your physical and your mental, and it's not going to give you those jitters. It's not going to give you those tingles that a lot of people like to stay away from when it comes to pre-workouts. It's not going to give you any of that. In fact, it's going to do sort of everything that it's supposed to do without any physical feelings associated with it, other than that feeling of, wow, I think I could take on the day. That feeling it's going to give you. So it does give you a little bit of a boost there. But to go back to what we were saying, this product can be taken at all levels. However, it does need to be certified in order to be in those circles. So there are certain certifications that are mandated by these sanctioned facilities that if they don't have these very specific certifications, then there's no way that you'd be able to get it through the program. And that's NCAA, Olympic, professional. They're all about the same when it comes to that.
What is something that we as consumers should know about the sports and nutrition industry that we don't know?
I think one of the big things that immediately comes to mind is representation. When we talk about this industry altogether, I did mention earlier that it's more of a boys' club, so to speak, where it's a smaller crew. Everyone knows everybody. And that's absolutely true. And to that end, that sort of means that it's really challenging to get inside without people opening doors. And we were very fortunate to have a few people open some doors for us, our advisor being one of them, and his network extended sort of into our network. Now, with that, you tend to sort of see who's running who, what's running what, and you recognize that there's very little representation around African Americans and people of colors altogether in that space, in that industry. I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, when you look at really any of the marketing or advertising, it's very seldom do we see anybody that's a little bit darker than an olive skin, right? So it's very challenging for people outside of that particular space to see themselves represented inside of that space, which is also no surprise why you don't see a lot of Black and brown people involved in supplementation altogether, because really nobody's pushing that to our community in that space. And that's where we wanted to come in and change the game a lot, literally and figuratively, right? Because we recognize that there's a space for, sports nutrition, fit lifestyle, so to speak, active lifestyle. And there's a space really for us as entrepreneurs to come in and really shake things up and make these products tailored more towards our community, a little bit cooler, a little bit trendier towards our community. And one way is through apparel, of course, and this is something that we've created, but also through our formulation, like we talked about earlier, and the graphics around the formulation and the aesthetics and the language and the way that we're talking to our community. It's got to be a way that's relatable. And right now it certainly isn't. So we're trying to change the game, flip the script a little bit in that sense so that we can feel like we're a part of this. And I absolutely 100% without a doubt believe that we can do it and that we need to be doing this, because activity and being well educated in that space around what it is that we need to fuel our bodies is so important. And it's something historically, unfortunately, our community hasn't really had a lot of experience with when it comes to, us as a society and the resources that we've had from all the way in, historically through ancestors and so on and so forth, and to where we are now. We have the opportunities now. It's just a matter of education. And I think that once we get that spark, and I'm hoping that New History is absolutely that spark that does change the way that people view this industry altogether, then I do think others will follow suit and then off to the races. So I'm excited to see what we can do.
So Tyrone, tell us your backstory. Tell us, how did you really get into sports and nutrition, sports nutrition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was an athlete my whole life, from I think six or seven, playing basketball all the way through high school, and then track and field from high school all the way through college. I was fortunate to recognize my athleticism at an early age and to sort of build on it to create a foundation that got me, a college scholarship and then all the way through. Unfortunately, I got injured my freshman year of college because I had a stress fracture in my left fibula. And that first year, it cracked. It snapped not in half, but the stress fracture grew and it snapped. So I was out an entire year because of that. Now, one could say, or one could argue, that had I been supplementing properly, that wouldn't have happened, right? But I didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't particularly popular at the time. It was very niche. So if you knew about it, you knew about it. If you didn't, you didn't. I mean, there was no one that was trying to persuade people into it. Plus, I thought they were steroids. So I didn't want to get involved too deep because I just didn't know. So, as an athlete, especially as an NCAA athlete, you hear a lot about drug testing. You hear a lot about banned substances. You hear a lot about these things. And, the last thing you want to do is put your eligibility at stake. So I stayed away. But the reality is, had I not, I would have performed better. If I had known about some of the things that I know about now, I would have absolutely been able to, compete a little bit more efficiently and effectively and longer for that matter, because I was just too worn out, from not going to the weight room in high school to going to the weight room every day in college. It takes its toll on your body. And it really did. And I don't want to say that that's the source of my injury. I think it's a collection of a lot of things, but it definitely played its part in ensuring that my body just couldn't handle what we were doing. So nutrition would have definitely helped with that. Most of the foods we were eating, we're talking about dining hall sandwiches. We're talking about dining hall pizza, which, if anyone knows anything about that, it's not the highest of quality of ingredients they're using, and just not necessarily caring. And we had a nutritionist we could have gone to, but we don't really focus on that. But what I am excited about today, though, is people are seeking out that information at a younger age, a lot younger. So 18, generally speaking, we're starting to see that a lot of people are taking interest in taking care of their bodies. So they are looking into supplementation. They are looking into proper nutrition and the fuel that they need in order to be successful inside and outside of the gym. So it is interesting to see the shift. And in addition to case studies and the research that's being dumped into this stuff to show people that this is something that not only do we need, but it's something that is absolutely safe if supplemented properly. And it's something that can get us to the next level altogether. So that's a little bit of my journey. Oh, also, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I did win a Big East championship in a triple jump while at University of Connecticut.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want you to give your elevator speech, and I know you said you're perfecting it to your audience, but I want you to talk to the parent that's listening, and they have an athlete that's coming up, whether high school, college. What advice would you give them?
So it'd be a little different from high school to college, but high school, what I would say is get into nutrition as fast as possible. And it's for a multitude of reasons. And I don't say nutrition like, eat salads, right? I'm talking about figure out what your body is looking for in order to optimize. Figure out what that resting metabolic rate looks like and what number from a caloric perspective you should be at, what number, if you're looking to be in a caloric deficit, you should be under, and a surplus you should be over. And this is important when trying to gain muscle and optimize at your sport, because you want to have the right amount of energy and you want to have the right amount of, call it protein, nutrition, substance to your body so that it can endure some of the intense practices, games, experiences that these sports bring. All sports bring them. If you're really looking to push yourself to the next level or push your child to that next level, then it's very important that your body can endure what's to come, because it's stepping outside of that comfort zone. And I always like to say comfort is the killer of ambition, because the minute that we're too comfortable, we stop reaching for those next goals. We stop reaching for greatness. So we want to make sure that if we're identifying our child as being somebody that can take it to the next level, that can absolutely perform and be there, then they need to have everything that comes with it. And a lot of times, these athletes don't prioritize nutrition. They don't prioritize their bodies. They don't prioritize their minds, and creating that fertile ground to be able to grow and learn as they increase their abilities and enhance their skills, things of that nature. So it really comes down to what we're putting in is what we're getting out. And I think that that's super important at the earlier ages, because supplementation isn't going to be an option, for anybody that's under 18. Our industry, we don't necessarily agree with it because we recognize that a lot of the things that we are providing are absolutely beneficial at all ages. It's just a matter of dosages that are involved. However, there are people at the top who don't agree with that and believe that people under 18, children under 18, shouldn't have any access to supplementation, shouldn't kind of live those happier and healthier lives, so to speak. But for today, we're not going to argue with that. We're going to focus on what we can control, and that's to provide people over the age of 18 with supplementation. Now, not to say that if a child says, hey, you know what, I'd like more protein in my diet. Protein is protein at the end. Your body's going to break that down. You're eating protein inside of steak, inside of, chicken, eggs, all of that. So I don't see what the problem is there, but definitely you want to keep an eye on that because bodies are still developing at that age. And, everybody's going to hormones are being developed at that age. So everybody's body is going to react a little bit differently to all things. So, just want to monitor sort of that intake of electrolytes, intake of protein, intake, really any sort of supplementation just in general, just to be sure that it's not having an adverse effect on anyone. But yeah, that's what I would say to high school. To college, I would say seek to optimize at all times. If you're an athlete and you're in college, then you're already competing with the best. You already are one of the best. You're competing with the best. So if you want to keep up with the best, then you need to make sure you're keeping up with your body. And that's going out and making sure that you're, doing the research, learning your body, learning what your body, likes, learning what your body doesn't like, learning what can turn up the levels in your performance through the things that you're eating and consuming. And then finding that balance. How do you become the best version of yourself? And asking that question alone in college, I think is one of the biggest questions that you can ask yourself, because you're there for a reason. And if you're there at college in any sport and you're not excelling, then a look in the mirror is absolutely needed, right? Because you have access to the best possible coaches. You have access to the best possible resources. Why aren't you getting better? So, and that's a question that they would absolutely need to ask themselves, because they may just not be as interested in the sport as they thought they were, right? It could just be something as simple as that. And they won't have that answer unless they're truly reflecting. And reflection is super key, I think, in the world of NCAA athletics.
And we know that the NCAA and just college, and I don't know specifically your age, but things have changed. Even in terms of, we are seeing peak performers. And even though the Chamberlains and all of those, when they came up, the Michael Jordans, we're seeing even more explosiveness in terms of performance and leniency in terms of, even, I think it's a wonderful thing that college athletes are now able to be compensated, which is going to be, it's a game changer. It's competitive, but it's going to get more competitive. Talk about that.
Oh yeah, man, it's the game has changed. And what recently, right, that over the last few days, they decided to compensate these players. Man, to be in the game today, it would absolutely be different. But I do agree 100% that it will absolutely elevate the level of competition, because now these inner city athletes, these urban athletes who are, looking to get to the pros to be able to provide for their families, no longer have to do that. They just have to get to college now. So they have, kind of made that carrot a little easier to get for some of these people. right? Because as you know, the top I think I don't know the percentages offhand, but it's a very small percentage of collegiate athletes that actually make it to the very next level in professional sports. And that's all professional sports. That's not even the big ones, right? That's not even the ones that can change people's lives. That's all professional sports. So now you've just sort of opened that pool up to be able to really help families and really help these students, really change their lives. And I do like it because these kids now will be able to learn responsibility just a little bit faster as well. Because with this, you'll now have to have, somebody on your staff that's making sure these kids are being responsible with their money, right? Because that's a whole nother angle, right? Because you have these kids who are already kids. They're gonna want to go party. They're gonna want to go spend money for no reason. They're gonna want to go, do crazy things, right? So you're gonna need somebody on your staff that's really gonna be able to connect with these kids in a way that is gonna make them feel like they don't need to go and do that. That they should, look at creating a foundation, look at investing these dollars, look at doing these things that can help them financially. And that ultimately is going to help the community altogether as well, because we know largely, in basketball, football, track and field for the most part, African Americans are very essential to these sports, right? So these are the communities also that when it comes to financial management can be a bit of a challenge, right? So if we can have people at the college level kind of focusing in on that particular piece, showing them financial health as well as physical health and mental health, then now we're setting these kids up for a better post-college experience, which I think is kind of cool. And naturally the talent is going to get better, which I hope. And then in turn, it'll breed better professional athletes as well, too. And not that we already don't have incredible athletes. You have Ja Morant and some of these guys, but like to think that it could even get better is pretty interesting. And I'd love to see it.
Tyrone, I want you to have a monologue. I want you to name this person, living or not. They've inspired you so much. Who is that person, and what are you saying to that person?
Okay. We're getting deep. Okay. That person. I have to say my father. My father, he is living still. And I know it's a little cliche, but I do believe that it is meaningful, right? Because my father, throughout my years growing up, has been essential. So to him, I'd say thank you for being there. Thank you for, supporting me in everything that I've done. Thank you for forcing me to understand that the world is challenging. The world is frightening. The world can be molded in a way to your liking if you just have what it takes in order to do it. He was very important in my athletic career because he took the time, not every day, but most days, to make sure that I was out there practicing, that I was out there honing in on my skills. But mostly it was him checking to see if this is something that I wanted over and over and over again. And he made sure that I knew what it took in order to take it to that next level, because I wanted to excel in basketball. So he was out there playing basketball with me constantly, fine tuning my jump shot, fine tuning my aggression, fine tuning, my abilities, but then, every now and again, he would remind me that if we want to take this thing up a notch, you got to get better. You got to get better. You got to get stronger. You're not going to grow. You're not that tall. So you got to do the things that's necessary in order to elevate inside the space. So I was fortunate. I had legs. I was able to jump. So that got me through a lot of it. And he helped me realize how to use sort of that ability to my advantage. He's like, you're undersized, but there are ways, because he's a big guy. So, and if I was going to score on him, it would have to be strategic and well thought out, in which case he helped me with a lot. So it's really a huge thank you to him. And you said one person, but of course my mother was integral as well, because she got me through. Well, she sacrificed her time to make sure that I had the time to go and travel across, the state, really, to play in all these basketball games, the basketball leagues. She was always there to as a shoulder to lean on when games didn't go well, and all of it. Right, always can talk to her about how I'm feeling, and she was the only one that sort of knew that I kind of had a stress fracture in my leg at the time, and was a little bit concerned about going to college and all of that stuff. So it's the level of confidence that I think I needed. And without both of them, truthfully, I don't think that I would have even been able to get to the collegiate level. They were very, very impactful in my life growing up, and very grateful for them.
Say their name.
My father's name is Charles Faverey. My mother's name is Karen Faverey.
Thank you for that. Talk to a younger Ty. What advice would you give to a younger you?
Stay the course. Absolutely stay the course. I would tell my younger self to continue doing what he's doing, but add in nutrition and supplementation. Make sure we're taking care of our bodies, because unfortunately, I was a fragile child. You know what I mean? I was fragile. I was always hurt. I was always in the training room. The trainers knew my name. They knew me personally. They knew everything about me. We were way too close. Probably wasn't a great thing, but I'm a people person. I'm a social person. So, it doesn't bother me at all. But at the same time, I didn't need to be in the training room as much as I was. So if I had, really focused in on nutrition at an earlier age, I think that I would have been a lot more successful in athletics, post high school, post college. And absolutely, and I would have loved to see if if I would have been able to, perform at that next level, at the Olympics, at the professional stage. It would have been great to see, but my body just couldn't handle it. It was just constantly broken, quite literally and figuratively for that matter. And I think with supplementation, with proper nutrition, mind you, I was eating fast food every day. It wasn't something that I was eating salads and really monitoring my intake. It wasn't anything like that. Had I done that, I would have had the strength and the mental strength and the physical strength to be able to compete at that level. And I think that's really just where I fell short, which is very unfortunate, very unfortunate. But I will say I am glad, though, that everything worked out the way that it did, because I will say, and I've dropped this earlier, I wasn't in love with track and field the way that I should have been in order to truly excel as well. I think that if I did have, the physical, piece that was needed in order to perform at the Olympics, I don't know if I would have truly loved the experience. I think it would have been cool, right? It would have been amazing, great to write on your resume, right? But when it comes to, being there every day, training every day, grinding every day, building up that mental, fortitude every day, I don't know if that's something that I truly would have wanted to be doing post college. I think I'm exactly where I needed to be, as an entrepreneur in that space to help elevate others, to get them to that level. But I think for me, it was kind of a wake-up call to realize that a little bit later in life. But I do think that a younger Tyrone would have been very happy with proper nutrition and proper supplementation.
There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire, and why.
Yeah, there are a ton. There's one in particular inside of sports nutrition that I just kind of love their dominance, if I'm being honest. And it's a supplement company. So they're called Rise Supplements. And I like them for a few reasons. I like them because they've set the bar for supplementation, and they've made supplementation very accessible. So you can go into just about any store, I think, at this point, and find their products. And the name of it, and I think I said the name of it. So it's Rise Supplements, and they have a variation of all different types of sports nutrition products, from pre-workouts all the way down to proteins. And what they've done is they've really blown up on TikTok. And to me, I think that's sort of kind of like the holy grail of our industry, because he's reaching the demographic that has the biggest voice in supplements, which is the 18 to 25-year-olds. and they sort of set the trends for the future of supplements. And so it's catering to what these guys want and need, guys and girls, what they want and need will ultimately create new innovations, ultimately create new products that are going to help optimize the individual that we'll hear about as people who are in a little bit of a different age group down the line. So it's almost like a kind of like a funnel in a sense. But I really respect what they're doing. I don't know them as individuals, so I can't really speak on them as people. They seem to be respected inside the industry as well. And they're just continuing to push the envelope. I mean, they're running. They're just running and running and they're running. And I think that we can do something similar should we get the backing of our community, should we get the backing of various different, entertainment groups for that matter as well, various different, sports and activities. If we can, tap in to all of the channels, I think in our plan, the way that Rise did TikTok and their demographic, I think that we'll be an absolute force, and I think that we'll be a household name at that point where people are really coming to us for some of those resources that maybe span beyond health and nutrition. Maybe it spans inside the community because, of course, we want to be ingrained in the community to the point where people expect to see us at certain events. People expect to see us here. People expect to talk to us about these things and expect for us to help them and donate and do the things that we need in order to empower and uplift our community. So it's certainly, these guys, I think, are the trailblazers, and it's something for us to look forward to catching up with them.
Talk about your apparel. How did you name it New History and why?
Oh, so New History, we came up with the name to be more targeted inside of our demographic. We wanted to create something that really just spoke without us having to explain it and evoked a feeling that people can sort of resonate with. So New History, the idea is that you can rewrite your future. You could start today and empower yourself to start your journey around health, fitness, and happiness. Don't look at what we've done in the past. Don't look at all the cheeseburgers we ate at Memorial Day. That's not important. What's important is that we've decided to start our mission, to start our journey, to live a happy and healthy lifestyle. And we can do that at any point in our life. Fitness is unique that way, that we can start today and absolutely transform our lives in the next, for the next, how many ever years, right? It's specific in a sense to the Black community because historically, we haven't had many resources that were healthy for us. When we look at some of the products that are being pushed into the Black community today, largely are they unhealthy, right? We're talking about, alcohol, sodas, fast food, you name it, right? And these things are, they're common. It's easy for us to go to downtown DC and see billboards of, Sprite, to see billboards of, Burger King, McDonald's, so on and so forth, right? And these things are normal. But what we don't see a lot of is people pushing healthier products inside this community. And this is something that we recognized immediately. So historically, we know that a lot of that is because of the economic status of these individuals inside the community. Black community, unfortunately, largely aren't as affluent as counterparts, right? It does make sense from a product business, large scale perspective that these cheaply produced products are being sold to this demographic. So what we said was, why don't we create a new history, right? Why don't we take that information and know that, historically we weren't optimizing ourselves. We weren't even looked at as being some community that could be optimized, into saying, you know what, let's forget all of that, right? Use it as foundational information in order for us to live better, to be better, and to push healthier, more nutritious foods and lifestyles to the community that needs it the most. And that's how we came up with New History.
Tyrone, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
I think I would have asked that if I could have been in any other industry, what industry would it have been? And the answer to that is, well, it's a little complicated because I have a love-hate relationship with the entertainment industry. As I previously, before this in the earlier life, I actually did do music and was a music producer in a production group for a number of years, in which case I've learned a lot about the music industry and the entertainment industry altogether. And I love the idea of it. And I think in some capacity, I would absolutely love to be in that industry, just not as talent or working with talent for that matter, but maybe sort of as more of an executive producer or somebody that had a little bit more skin in the game. So I absolutely love music, absolutely love entertainment. I would love to be in that industry. But as far as where in that industry, that's the challenge for me because, when there, I couldn't necessarily find a position, so to speak, that I enjoyed the most. I did like production. I did like working with artists. I did like making music and exercising my creative muscles. But it just gets to a point where you find yourself managing people again. And when you kind of manage people in that space, you don't want to take them out of the creative spirit. And when you do that, there's a lot of resistance. So it's to me, wasn't particularly worth it. So I decided to bow out. But I think if there were any other industry that I could absolutely work in a position that I could choose, then yes, it would probably be music or entertainment.
Thank you for that. We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to give you a series of questions, and I want you to give me very quick answers.
Okay.
If something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Rapid Round of Fun?
I think so.
Your favorite comfort food?
Macaroni and cheese.
The last movie you saw?
Argyle.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Kendrick Lamar.
Your favorite dance song?
Turned Down for What?
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Protein shake.
Your ideal car?
It's an Audi Q8.
Work out or hit the couch?
Oh, work out.
Tyrone, Faverey, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with their audience the best way for them to connect with you, to do business with you. Leave all your social media handles and let us know where we can get that fabulous attire from.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. So newhistory.com, or excuse me, newhistorysupps, supps.com is our website. You can absolutely find us there. You can email us at info@newhistorysupps.com. You can, if you'd like to reach me specifically, you can email me at Tyrone@newhistorysupps.com. You can dial into our line. You can chat with us, the whole deal. You can find our apparel at newhistorysupps.com as well. We're constantly updating it. We have this beautiful hoodie on there. It's actually called the Fast Food Survivor hoodie. So more than welcome to check that out. And we will be updating our catalog regularly when it comes to supplementation, the supplements, once we launch this particular product into the various different locations that we're looking to do. And Instagram, we're right there on Instagram. We're on TikTok at New History Supps on both. And we'll expand into various different platforms as we continue our journey. But those are the ones that we're focused on right now.
Thank you, Tyrone. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.